Welcome to the H.I.T Files with Sam Wilson. For those of you not familiar, H.I.T stands for High Intensity Training. This is going to be a brief podcast, video cast, whatever in the world it's called nowadays. I don't know. I've got, if you're familiar with my podcast, or that's how you found me, I have the Make It Out Alive, or the MOA broadcast with Sam Wilson. You can find that on Spotify. You can find that on my YouTube channel, Sam Wilson, Gear Convoy, Wilson Custom Knives. You can also find it at the website, gearconvoy.com. We have all the episodes there, and it's on almost all Apple Podcast, Spotify, Amazon, all the different podcast providers. So there you go. That's information on that. That particular show I've been doing we're in the second season. I started that in early 2025. It's more of a situational awareness, outdoors and survival-based show, preparedness and so forth. And I had done part of that, in my opinion, and I'm going to try and keep this brief so we can have some good content in this and get down to the actual topic at hand here momentarily. But I didn't want that show to be overtaken by the high-intensity training segments and so forth. Being physically fit is absolutely a very important part of survival. I have been involved in high-intensity training and just training with weights and barbells and fitness conditioning for well over 30 years now, and I've been training myself and other people on and off again fashion for nearly the same amount of time, with fantastic results. I don't have any doubts or questions as to whether or not high-intensity training works. It absolutely does if you're willing to put in the work and endure the discomfort that comes along with doing it properly to failure. So that's what this show is going to be about. We're going to keep this show, the first episode, which is this one, is probably going to be, 10, 12, maybe 15 minutes, depending on how much I ramble on throughout the episode. I didn't want to hijack the other show and make it exclusively about high-intensity training, because the segments that I did got a lot of feedback and emails and questions. If you have any emails or questions for us or feedback, you can email us at info@gearconvoy.com. We'll probably put the link in the description, and that way you can just do it that way. Okay, so this is just done real informally, where I've got a sound booth where I do most of my shows and stuff in. We're just out in the shop right now, so this is going to be real simple. The lighting's not going to be that great. The sound probably not that great either, but let's go ahead and grip it and rip it. So, for those of you that don't know, what is high-intensity training? Over the years, this is not a new concept, and probably very little to anything that I'm going to say in any of these episodes in the H.I.T Files will be new information. This has been around for a very long time, and there have been people that are somewhat famous or have notoriety in the bodybuilding and weight training and physical fitness world that have used this and have espoused these ideas and have trained with them and even expounded upon them and extrapolated upon them. I'm not going to be using those names because I don't like using people's names to write on their shoulders or write on their back for clickbait and so forth. Nothing wrong with any of those guys at all. If you do even a modest level of research into high-intensity training, you're going to find all the people that are involved. It's very, very public knowledge. There are very few secrets in the world now that the internet is around. So, that being said, high-intensity training simply boils down to a couple of basic concepts. Probably the most important one is you do each set to a point of momentary failure, meaning if you do a set of barbell curls, you curl until you simply cannot, in good, clean, strict form, or relatively strict form, do another clean, safe rep. Now, it doesn't mean you do 25 or 30 reps necessarily, but you need to be in the appropriate rep range for the muscle that you're training. Now, for some people, this is going to be the same basic rep range of 6 to 10 or 8 to 10 or 10 to 12 for their whole body. For other people, it's going to be a different rep range, and that can only be found through experience. I'll illustrate. Because I keep track of all of my workouts, which I strongly advise you to do as well, I know for sure that my biceps tend to thrive in the 4 to 6 rep range, meaning when I start off with a weight, let's say 100 pounds, doesn't matter, it's a nominal figure, let's say 100 pounds. If I can do 4 repetitions with a barbell curl for 100 pounds, then and I fail on repetition number 4. I can't get it any further up. I can't hold it anymore, and I complete the rep, but then I simply can't get even anything close to a number 5 repetition. Then I'm done. Okay. The next workout, which will be a couple of days later for the biceps, I will almost guaranteed hit 5 or 6 repetitions with that same 100-pound level. When I hit 6 repetitions, I need to go up in weight. So I have a good amount of strength, but a lower amount of endurance with the biceps muscles, okay? My triceps, oddly enough, are the exact opposite. They're just getting warmed up at 6 to 8 or even 10 repetitions, and they thrive in the 10 to 12, even 14 to 15 rep range. If I hit 12 to 14 repetitions on a triceps exercise, whichever exercise it is, I will be stronger the next workout and sometimes go up 5 or 10 pounds per exercise the very next exercise or the very next workout 2 to 5 days later or whatever it winds up being on that particular cycle. So you have to find those rep ranges, and then again, one of the biggest cornerstones of this type of working out of exercise is doing one clean set to failure per body part, then moving on, and then when you're done, get out of the gym, give yourself time to recover, forget the gym, leave the gym at the gym, and move on. Okay? Because the most important part after you've hit that whatever you want to call it, you flip that switch that triggers growth in the muscles. The most important part next is to allow your body to recover. If you are trying to go for hypertrophy, if you're trying to get bigger and stronger in the muscles, okay, you want to trigger growth. If you do that successfully, let's say you do that barbell curl and you hit 6 repetitions with 100 pounds or whatever it is that works well for you, and then you go back in the very next day and do it again, you're going to be weaker and you're going to short circuit that whole growth situation. So the secondary part of the high intensity training is to give yourself time to recover. That'll be in further episodes if we keep doing this, but typically you want to give yourself 2 to 3 or even 4 days in between workouts once you get this down. Now, most of the time I will do full body or at least half body workouts. And so whenever you do this, 2 workouts per week, when you get to at least a reasonable level of strength, you're not overlapping your muscles constantly. And, whenever you're younger, all you want is to be as bigger, stronger, and faster as possible, as quickly as possible. And that's understandable. I was the same way when I was younger. I wish I could say I was still young. But once you've been doing this for a while, you realize if slow and steady is what wins the race. Okay? And again, we're going to get into all of these concepts later on, but the overriding point of all of this is you want to go in there, keep track of your workouts on paper, on purpose, as they say, and then track those. Okay, hit that failure. Again, do it safely. Consult a physician is always a good idea. I don't know if anyone's ever done that in the history of exercise, but you should. Make sure you're safe and you know what you're doing. And then after you've triggered that growth, you want to give yourself time to recover. And that kind of brings us into the point of today's episode, which is exercise is making you weaker. What in the world does that mean? Well, let's dig in a little bit, shall we? Some estimates or studies estimate that between 10 and up to 20% of athletes are experiencing symptoms associated with overtraining syndrome. Other studies suggest between 30 and 60% of endurance athletes will experience overtraining or non-functional overreaching at some point during their careers. What are the symptoms? Loss of strength, poor recovery, fatigue, loss of motivation, and declining performance. Now, in my personal opinion, both of those estimates are far, far too low. I think it is much, much closer to 100% of athletes that truly get in there and train hard are going to experience overtraining at some point. Whether they experience the physical or the psychological aspects more severely is going to depend on the athlete and their particular sport. And let me get a quick sip of water here. One of the insidious things, or I should say the insidious nature of overtraining when it comes to weightlifting, is a lot of athletes, a lot of trainees, a lot of weightlifters, bodybuilders, etc., they don't really know what they're looking for because they go in there and they do the standard marathon workout that's been in vogue for decades and that people have been espousing. These influencers online, most or a lot of which I should say, in my opinion, are an absolute joke. They have no idea what in the world they're talking about. They're only parroting what AI has told them, or something they read in some muscle magazine, or something that some gym bro told them. And a lot of these things are complete nonsense. They're utterly ridiculous and stupid. And they will either get you hurt or severely retard your training results and progress. They're worthless. That's not to say all of these influencers and gym bros and whatever that you see on social media and wherever else. Some of them, I'm sure, are very good in getting back into this world of physical fitness and training and so forth. Insofar as the online portion of what the media has to say about all of it. Recently, I saw a bunch of stuff online, social media, YouTube, and so forth, where a lot of these guys are absolutely ridiculous. The stuff they're saying and doing is not going to help anyone. For some of them. And for others, it's only going to help if you're on steroids or growth drugs or whatever else, some type of performance enhancing substance. Because you would be shocked at how easy it is to overtrain the average trainee, the human body. Okay, it simply cannot stand that much in the way of high intensity training if you're doing it properly, or unless you are an extremely genetically gifted individual, which by definition, most of us are not. Just the way that it is. Doesn't matter what you want. That's, reality doesn't care about your feelings. And unfortunately, that's the way it goes. Most people are average by definition. And then you've got some people that are so far down the line that they have almost basically their genetic material is just one or two steps above trash. Sorry to say it, that's the way it is. They can do almost anything in the gym and they're going to get very, very little in the way of results because unfortunately the genetic material is just not there. Then you have people at the opposite end of the spectrum. These are the people who are the champions in bodybuilding and other sports that they can go and look at a barbell and they turn into an Adonis. They have almost record-breaking performances simply by hanging out at a gym. So for the average person, though, especially if there are no PEDs involved of any kind, one of the most important things is recovery. And that is really the crux of this episode, and we're going to try not to run this too awful long. I want to really chew because, again, we talked about the insidious nature of overtraining when it comes particularly to weight training, okay? Most people, they're happy to gain 10 or 20% in their strength over a 6 to 8 week or a even longer, a 6 to 8 month training program. In reality, you should be seeing that level of strength gain in a couple of weeks if you're working out properly. Now, if you're a more advanced trainee, if you're getting closer to the end, the limit, the upper limit of your genetic ability, then it's going to slow down no matter what because your body simply can't do anymore. Everyone has an upper limit beyond which you simply cannot get bigger and stronger without using either PEDs or whatever. And even then, if you're on heavy levels of steroids or other hormones or whatever else, you're still going to have a limit where you simply can't go any further. Now, the closer you get to that limit, the more your progress tends to slow down, and also the deeper you dig into your body's ability to recover and bounce back from a workout. Okay, but again, we're going to get into those in a separate episode. We're trying to lay the broad strokes for high-intensity training here on this particular episode of the HIT Files. Now, because it's so difficult, and because people's sights, their expectations are so low, they expect to basically go in there and gain 2 or 3 reps in 2 or 3 workouts or 2 or 3 weeks of working out. They don't realize how severely retarded their progress already is due to probably overtraining. In other sports, though, it's much more dramatic. I want to share a brief story with you. This one takes us back to the 80s. In the early 80s, Alberto Salazar was considered one of the greatest distance runners in the world. He had won the New York City Marathon 3 consecutive times. He had won the Boston Marathon. He held American records and was widely regarded as one of the toughest endurance athletes in the world. So what happened? Obviously, Alberto Salazar was a hard worker. He was motivated. He had the genetic gifts to attain a very, very high level of success in his chosen field and endeavor. But what began to happen? Instead of he started to push more and more and more. He subscribed to that if some is good, more is better theory. And so if 100 miles a week was good, then let's do 120. If I get good results doing 120 miles a week, let's go ahead and make it 150. And he kept pushing and pushing and pushing until guess what happened? His performance started to decline. He started experiencing repeated injuries, illnesses, chronic fatigue, and declining performances. The more he pushed, the less his body seemed to respond and seemed to be willing to give back to him. He was training more and getting less. What was happening? Well, we know that these are the classic symptoms of overtraining. He had simply depleted whatever reserves his body had left to give. Now, in that particular case, it was very dramatic what was going on. He was starting to decline very quickly in his levels of different performances, apparently, as opposed to continuing to grow more and to improve. In the gym, it's a little bit more difficult if you're not keeping track of your workouts to understand and to be able to track and chart whether you're improving or declining. There are some guys that go there, they go to the gym. Let's put it like this. If you want to decide, if you want to know if high-intensity training, if HIIT is right for you, if it's going to work for you, if you like to go to the gym every day, then it's probably not going to be for you. If you like to spend hours upon hours hanging out with your gym bros in the gym, it's not right for you. If you like to spend your time playing on your phone, listening to music, and trying to pick up people while you're at the gym, this is not for you. If you like to hang out and pump and pose in front of the mirror and you're more concerned with looking good than you are performing good, then chances are it's not going to be right for you. However, if you want to get the best possible results in general from the least amount of time and effort spent in the gym, then you've come to the right place. If you want to get stronger as quickly as humanly possible without using PEDs and other performance-enhancing things and substances, this may just be the absolute perfect thing for you. If you want a fantastic level of both anaerobic and aerobic strength and cardiovascular fitness, then this is absolutely the best way to do it, in my opinion. So you think about that and you decide what your goals are, and you decide whether you want to spend hours upon hours pumping and posing and flexing in the gym and slinging around heavy weights and possibly injuring yourself and working out and enduring seemingly endless levels of hard work, but with relatively low intensity compared to high intensity training. And if that's where you want to spend your time, then by all means, do whatever in the world you want. But if you think that's the most efficient way to get bigger, faster, and stronger, then you are wrong. And we will be happy to prove that to you and help you. I'm not making any money off this. A lot of these influencers and gym bros and other people, they found a way to monetize this, and that's great for them. People that have done other things have found a way to attach this to a dollar symbol and dollar sign and make money, and that's great for them. I have nothing to gain. I'm doing this because I have helped a number of people in the past, a relatively large number for me, by training them and showing them how to do this and get in good shape. And it's done a tremendous wonders for me to be in at least reasonably good shape with a minimal amount of effort. And I want to share with others. I see the stuff that people are doing online and social media and the constant injuries that we're seeing. And I think to myself, there has to be a better way. We don't want to sit here and keep doing this endlessly. And so if you think that knowledge might be useful to you, then feel free to keep listening, like and subscribe or whatever, or not. I don't care. I'm not charging for this, just like I don't charge for the Make It Out Alive broadcast at gearconvoy.com. So that's going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of the HIT Files. We'll be back with more.